Okay. Welcome. JB Cast episode number 14.
Fuck. 14, bro.
Paul here.
Joey here.
T here.
The big three. Today we are talking about jungle gymnastics and movement prep.
Yep.
Two of our programs here at the gym. We'll talk about what it is, what they do, why.
Yeah, I think that there are two. There are two. Solely bodyweight strength and mobility focused programs, and I think they're kind of what makes our style or our method of training very unique. That we offer those in conjunction with other things, and I think it would be there's a lot to talk on with those. Some cool stuff in there.
Mm. Yeah, I think they're also the two most fun classes. I think they're really fun. Fun to coach, fun to do as soon as you get your head around them, and give you lots and lots and lots of quality changes to the body.
Cool. So, movement prep, Tiora, you're the creator and programmer. Why don't we start with just giving a definition, then we'll jump over to Joe, who's the creator and programmer of Gymnastics.
Yeah, I think we noted, and we've talked about these programs before. We gave a bit of an overview, but I think today we're going to go into a little bit more detail and how they've evolved since the last time we talked about them, which was at the old gym. I think the new space has allowed us to spread our wings a lot more with our programming, which has been great. And with that, I think the programs have changed and they've evolved. The direction that they're heading in is a little different, and I think for me, with the extra space and more knowledge, the bigger classes, all of these different variables that have changed. The main thing is that we recognised that there were these deficiencies that were popping up with our members that have been here for a while, and we thought, okay, some of them were starting at a place that was probably a little too advanced for them, and this system that we brought in was designed to bring everything back to that foundation and just clean up anything that had been swept under the carpet and rebalance the body, strengthen it from the torso out, and bring a bit more emphasis on just basic mobility patterns, nothing too complex, and also to have a class that was accessible to everyone, because even though all of our classes are scaled and this, to a point where we have them open to everyone, it's still some of the techniques and the complexity of a bunch of movement patterns are very difficult for people to access. Whereas in movement prep, everything is accessible, even if you're injured.
Yeah, totally.
So that was the aim of the program, and I think because of that, that's what's made it so popular.
Can I read what it says on the website and tell me if this is still true, or maybe I need to update it? Movement prep, the gatekeeper to the JB's arena, designed to balance and fortify the foundation of your body pyramid. The stronger the foundation, the higher the peak of the pyramid. The focus is solely on stability, strength, and acute joint mobility. This program will accelerate your progress in other class formats, rid your body of niggling pain, thicken up your trunk musculature, and drastically lower your potential for injury.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. So I got the triangle. So it sounds all a little bit.
Triangle.
A little bit kind of hocusy-pocusy, but it's
it's a model, man.
It's like
shapes. People understand
pyramid.
Yeah. Just keep it.
Sacred geometry. Freemasons. DOT.
So the base of the base of that pyramid. Let's look at our body. So and a reflection. Look at our body like a pyramid, and it's symbolic. So the bottom of that pyramid is your stability.
Bread, potatoes, pasta, rice.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Cereals. Yeah. So it's your ability to stabilize and mobilize. So how much range can your joint produce? How stable can you make your body in collaboration with the mobility of your body. So one area stabilizes, another it allows another area to move. So if you look at like a bulldozer, the reason why it can shift as much dirt as it does is because it has a big, strong, stable base. You take that stable base away, then it can't shift as much dirt. If you shorten the range of motion, it's got less access to with that dirt. So what we're looking at is increasing the size of the base of the pyramid. And if we look at the top of the pyramid...
Do you mean like a bigger ass?
Big quads, big butt, big
Yeah, right
abs.
on.
Big abs.
Big abs.
Big abs.
That's
abs.
our look, big abs.
Big abs, big,
Fat
thick
ass.
lower back. Yeah, all the thick trunk.
Yep.
Side abs
Fighter's
is what
trunk.
we've been...
Not the little V trunk. Not the
No,
little
no.
beach body trunk.
And you don't want the
Pencil neck.
Yeah, pencil neck on the... yeah, it's a bad look.
Skinny wrists.
And this is what the trunk is. The trunk is not just the torso. It's all the muscles and tendons and ligaments going into the pelvis. It's all of them going in through the shoulder joint, and it's everything going through the neck and into the head. So really, it's whatever's traveling into the extremities. So we get strong with the stable base. We get more mobile, and the very top of that pyramid, we have our skill. So the more stability, more mobile you become, or the stronger your stability strength is, the more potential skill you can have. You know?
Yeah.
So in between that, you've got your speed, your power, acceleration, all that other stuff. But the baseline, if you want to have, one day you want to have that muscle up or that, whatever it is that you're chasing, handstand, if you can work on building a stronger foundation in those two areas, then you get more access to other things with less chance of injury.
It's a great way to put it. It's a really good way to put it. I like the way you see it in that simplified way as well of how the body works. I think, talking about jungle gymnastics, which has been, my thing, I think the interesting part is to look at how both of the programs evolved from the beginning, right? Because jungle gymnastics was, I think when we started, we offered strength and movement and we offered jungle gymnastics, right? And lift. So there were the three classes. Lift was very simple. It was just barbell work. Jungle gymnastics was body weight stuff, and then strength and movement was a bit of everything. But the jungle gymnastics was largely born out of what I was doing at the time when we first opened the gym, which was, that was when I dived deep into the movement side of things, right? So I was following a lot of work of Ido Portal and these kinds of people. A couple of years of that, and then doing online coaching with him for a year and attending, a bunch of movement camps and all that kind of stuff. But that stuff really influenced what we were teaching in that program. And it was sick because there's so much cool stuff in there, right? But I think, where T's talking from and what we came to realize was that a lot of that stuff is too complex for some. And too much complexity is not necessarily a problem. Sometimes it's a good thing to throw someone in for something that they're, that's a little bit ahead of where they're at. But if that's all they're doing, or if that's all that's on offer, that's not ideal. And I believe strongly that I ran into that same situation myself, and I think you did too, T. We're both following a pretty similar style of programming based off what I was doing with Ido. And it was all good stuff, and I was training a bunch of hours a day and getting strong and all that, but it was too advanced for me, a lot of it. Some of it I could keep up with, but some of it was just it was too much. And I look back at it now and I think, man, I was trying to address so many different areas of my strength and movement ability, and I just hadn't even spent time working on these foundational areas, which is kind of characteristic of his style of training, I think, and that's a topic for another day, but it didn't really serve me. And so, over this time, the gymnastics program has evolved. However, since movement prep, it's been quite cool because we've been able to keep gymnastics as the more dynamic, the more complex kind of older cousin of
more playful.
Yeah, that's right. A little bit more freestyle, a little bit more. I think in general a bit more challenging, because we have that other class movement prep that is the base. That is more simple. Anyone can access it, but it's good for everyone. Yeah.
Anyone can go to a jungle gymnastics class though, because
totally.
Yeah,
totally, and we encourage that.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty clear. Like it's of the classes we run, it's probably the one where people would find the most amount of dissonance with it, or friction, because, you know, it's fucking hard to play on the rings and to play around with handstands and locomotion and all this kind of stuff if certain things aren't there: coordination, confidence, joint mobility, strength, balance, you know, like all these little qualities
that often you take for granted.
Exactly. Like I definitely did, right? Because a lot
Yeah.
of my mobility and stuff, I didn't really have to work for it that much. So, you know, it was there. So yeah, like, and you know, there's people in the class who are very successful with it who don't possess high levels of any of those qualities, but they do possess perhaps a work ethic or a commitment where they don't mind. But I know for people who are a bit, you know, oftentimes who are newer to the gym, they really hit this thing where they're like, oh, I'm not good enough for that class yet.
Yeah,
and
it's common.
Yeah, and that's the tough part about what we do here is that a lot of the stuff we teach in our gym, you're going to be shit at for the first little while, right? Like that's the reality of it. Whereas I think a lot of people are conditioned to coming from styles of training or gyms or whatever, where, you know, there's the appearance or the illusion that everyone's fine, and it's because they're not doing anything particularly challenging. They're just doing a shitload of poor quality reps, and they get a sweat on, and you know, there's no real. It's not really demonstrated to you where you're at like that. Does that make sense?
What do you do when? So let's say you run your. So you're running mesocycles of 6 weeks?
6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks?
Yeah.
You hear a lot of the time people get their fingers into something, they're working on the same skill for that 6 weeks, and then it disappears for a while, and then it comes back again. Sometimes, for some people, this can become a little bit irritating, or they feel like they've taken a big step back. What's your answer to that?
Yeah, I think the unfortunate side of having a training program that is ambitious in the variety of goals it's chasing means that has to be the case. So
our whole gym's like that, for that matter.
Exactly right. You want to do some grappling, you want to go to Fight Factory, you want to go get better at handstands, you want to snatch more, all that. So it's, you know, and you talk to anyone who's in the movement community and they'll tell you the same thing. It's like, well, if I want to get better at that thing, then I'm going to have to put something else on ice, right? So say we do 6 weeks of work on the parallettes, and then we go off the parallettes and we spend 6 weeks on handstands and lower body focused locomotion work. And then we come back to the parallettes. You will hear that often, like, oh, I fucking lost my shoulder stand. I used to have it. This sucks. I'm getting weaker. I believe that those people are missing the point slightly, which is that they're not getting weaker. They're getting stronger and more mobile all the time. They just lost the tiny little, 2% or 5%. Yeah, that little peak, right? They sacrificed that 5%, let's say, to make 30% gains in something else.
Which in turn increases the potential of their ability when they return back to the parallettes, let's say.
Exactly. And I think it's just the ego speaking at that point. And I get it. I feel the same thing, but it's like, yeah, it's like, look, let's take the helicopter up and then look at your training over a longer perspective and look at the whole thing. Everything's going in the right direction. So don't judge it based off this one skill.
I think that's something that pops up with newer members. I think our long-term members that are regular, that are consistent with their training and training's quality, are now starting to recognise that exact same kind of wave that happens. And they're like, holy shit, like this time last year, I went off the parallettes, came back, had to start from scratch. And now what I'm doing on the parallettes, I've got back to where I was 6 weeks ago, and now I'm doing the same thing on the rings.
Yeah.
Whereas I couldn't have gone near them a year ago, kind of thing, Yeah,
it's so true. And I mean, fuck, it's like if we talk about what the body can do, the patterns are pretty simple, or the movements are pretty simple, right? You can push, you can pull, you can squat, hinge, whatever. So even when we remove something, it's always going to get replaced with something that's not that far away from it anyway. It's not like there's never an element of pushing strength or an element of pulling strength or whatever. And that's, I think that's that's a really important thing to remember, is that, like, yeah, the skills are the icing on the cake, but it's the actual strength and the, you know, like you said, the stability and the mobility potential behind those skills that is what we're really interested in developing.
What other benefits do you think you get from taking a step away from a skill set for, you know, 6 to 8 weeks or a couple of months, and then coming back to it, but not stopping your training, just walking away from something for a little bit, or changing the variables, or taking a handstand off the floor to the parallettes, or whatever it is?
Good question.
I think it just opens up opportunities for other things, right? So, like, yeah, if you take your handstand from the floor to the parallettes, you're going to lose a bit because you change the grip and the hand setup, but you're going to gain because you're changing the element of the strength, or the vectors that are required, and the specific little bits of stabilization that change. But, you know, it's like if we take something out of the program that you know, you're enjoying, it's going to be replaced with something else. So if you're still training, it's just a chance to develop something else. And I mean, I think that's the goal, right? Is just develop as much as you can.
I think also you can benefit from just giving your body a rest from those positions for a bit, you know? Just avoiding that chance of getting that repetitive strain injury from doing the same thing day in and day out, the same vectors, same angles, same pressure points, and being able to play with those. It can take a lot of pressure off your body long term, allows you to rest and recover those areas while you work on something else, and then when you return back to it, it's kind of fresh, you know?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a really good point. I mean, we've kind of run into those situations ourselves, haven't we, in the past?
I think a good example, I think recently was all of the acro type stuff that we've been doing, the low gate kick ups, low gate cartwheels, etc.
What is low gate?
Low gate, just from bent knee, bent hip position. So whether you're on your forefoot of your foot or on your heels, you're just bent knee, low hip. If you think about standing and, you know, dropping down on your hands and kicking into a handstand, it's just from a lower position. So that changes how you have to do the setup. And certainly when you go to the side in the cartwheel, you're entering upside down in another angle. And I would argue that doing that for the last 6 weeks is probably going to improve the way people perceive handstands when we get back into some more rudimentary handstands. Just because you build strength in entry and that low gate, like you've got to really zero in on your kick up and how you catch. Because we were doing the straddle to catch.
So true, so true. It's like when you're it's like in jiu-jitsu, you know, if you go and train at a gym full of killers and everyone's better than you,
yeah,
it's going to be a pretty kind of awful first few weeks or you know, first few lessons, but eventually you're going to like stop not getting tapped all the time, and then you're going to start to, you know, not get tapped at all, and then all of a sudden you might be able to submit someone a couple months down the track, and then like your skills level up. And I think that's kind of what you're referring to, right? It's like,
yeah.
But in the short term, the class might not feel as satisfying today.
Totally.
It's like, oh, I kind of sucked at that thing, but it's like, well, it's good to suck, you know? Like it's good to, like, you got to embrace that, don't you?
Mm.
Well, it happens.
Fuck, you seen T try and dance? I mean, he's really good at doing that.
I'm really good at dancing. In fact, I'd have a dance off with you any day. Right here.
Come at me, bro.
Come on. Do it.
Did you?
But don't. Are you going to talk about my dancing?
No, just backing, just on that. Last night you proclaimed in Movement Prep on that 7:15 Thursday, little plug.
Thursday, 80s only.
Are you serious about that, or were you just excited?
Fucking deadly serious.
7:15 Thursday's Movement Prep.
It's now officially 80s music, and coming into spring will turn into 80s dress up.
Holy shit.
He will do anything to get numbers up in his class. Anything.
I'm a numbers junkie. I mean, look.
He'll appeal. Hey, 40-year-olds, listen up.
30s,
we're coming
40s,
for you.
All yeah. 60s, all of them.
30s? I don't even know what the 80s is, man. Keep talking about it.
You know what they are. Yeah, so that'll be fancy dress soon.
That'd be fucking cool, actually.
Yeah,
What a stunt.
it's gonna be sick.
I like it.
I mean, look, I don't really have to worry about numbers in my class, so I can't get enough.
Hey, before we go any further, I'm just going to go back to jungle gymnastics, just to balance up and define it as per what we've got here on the website. You can confirm if this is correct.
Holla.
For first-time listeners, jungle gymnastics, strength and flexibility training using only your own body weight. A movement-rich combination of gymnastics, calisthenics, acrobatics, and hand balancing. Learn how to control your most trusty tool, your own body. Featuring elements of locomotion, hand balancing, gymnastic rings, bar work, parallel bar work, and more.
It's broad, huh? Yeah, I think that covers it. You know, it's totally what it is. Yeah, body weight's the thing. You know, that's the interest
main
in that.
thing
Yeah, it
for that
is.
one.
And you know, trying to not get like. I kind of battle a little bit with the programming because it's very easy for it to just become very gymnastics based. But then I think about the acro stuff and the locomotion stuff and all these things, which are, you know, maybe a little bit harder to teach, and it's particularly in a 1 hour class, and particularly if I know that some people aren't there all the time, because you've got to build layer upon layer, week after week kind of thing.
I felt that in the past.
You felt that, right? So you get someone turning up who's like, you know, it's the 5th week of the 6-week cycle, and they're like, oh, I haven't done this class yet. And you're like, fuck, there's so much context that I got to explain to you right now. It's fine, you figure out a way to do it, but it is a challenge. But yeah, I would say that's it, you know. So, I mean, like, we kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but we now kind of consider that the movement prep and gymnastics classes are related, and that we try to keep the movement prep program and the gymnastics program not necessarily on the same theme at the same time, but they complement each other.
Yeah, they're cohesive, without a doubt. And I think we had a point there where we were doing too much of the same. Like there was too much crossover.
Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah, there were a couple little things that popped up. A bit of golfer's elbow, which we kind of we got to the bottom of that and realised that they do dovetail. They're not the same, but they need to be in collaboration with each other.
The golfer's elbow outbreak of 2017.
It was.
Famous.
It was.
Whole goddamn platoon was dropping like flies.
It's a full breakout.
It was about 4 people. Wow, it was
walking around with lumps in their forearms.
Yeah. Looking
Size of
fucking
golf
jacked,
balls.
mind you. So
That's great.
take a bit of pain for the jacked look.
So going back to coming into class and doing something that feels like it's inaccessible to you, there are individuals that will look at a phase and say, no, I can't do a cartwheel. I'm going to skip this 6-week phase and just do more S&M or one of the other classes, or not turn up at all.
Yep.
I've had it in this last series where, I mean, a lot of people have loved it, but then I've lost a couple of individuals because they don't see how any of the side lever progressions relate to their goals. What do you have to say to those individuals?
Your ego is not your amigo.
Nice.
Yeah. I do think that it's I think that it's I get it, but I think that those people need to recognize that it's not bad to suck at something, and that whatever they're doing is working them towards their goals. You know, because they want one thing and they would go a particular way about it. We want the same thing for them, but we go around about it in a different way. And I think that by them coming here to be coached by us, they are making an admission that they believe we're better at knowing how to get them there than they are. Because why the fuck else would they come here? Mm. You know, like that's the reality. So it's like, look, yeah, it's cool. Maybe that particular movement's not your thing, but that should not be enough to stop you coming and doing the work in this class for the next 6 weeks. Paulie?
No, that's well said. That's well said. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about myself, actually, like how I approach. I've always just gone towards anything that is new, whether it's hard or not. You just got to see it as a challenge, I guess. Yeah, it's hard to suck, but hell, like it's fun. It's something new. Like you come here for variety. and you've just got to trust it and take it on for a few weeks, and hopefully something picks up. Yeah, and trust in the programming. It was well said.
What do you think, T? What do you say to
I
him?
think you need to harden the fuck up. Oh, that's what I think.
You should have seen the way he just looked at us when he said that.
Wow.
He's going to eat my face.
The nostrils flared up, those famous nostrils.
No, that was his eyeballs, bro.
But both at the same time. Yeah, I think, look, I think that if you're in this gym, you're a certain kind of person and you value the fact that you want to be a generalist athlete. And if you start to, and don't get me wrong, one of our biggest kind of pushes is like ratio the classes out so you can focus and celebrate your strengths, but acknowledge your weaknesses, because the classes that you're choosing to avoid are most probably 99.999% recurring the shit that you need, really, at the end of the day, because you're not very good at it. And there's a reason why.
Spot on.
Fucking do it. Stop
This is
whinging.
true.
Yeah,
It's
this
true.
is
Oh,
this
you're
is a
fucking whinging
this is a totally. It's a symptom
Killing
of
me.
it's a symptom
Fight
of
Factory. Fight Factory.
So, Joe, when
So when you come to Fight Factory class,
So I got like 10 guys in this gym, 10 fierce warriors that are waiting for you to come into
just
a
to
sparring
fucking
session.
break my nose. First one to drop him.
been
TNT's got a bounty out of my head.
I secretly measured your limb length, your height. We've got
Training for me.
we're bringing in guys with your
He's
build.
going to do this, guys.
jiu-jitsu
He
guys.
does this every time.
Yeah. Studying tapes.
Fucking hell. I'll come one day and you guys can film it and put it up on the YouTube channel.
my
I'm going to
God.
fucking walk through your team. I'm going to stand in the middle of those mats and bang. Son, Nerd Bash 2018.
No nerd left alive.
you know what? My fucking strike force is going to come and jiu-jitsu raid your fucking
We'll show up at
15
grappling.
class. Just kick the shit out of all of you.
That's so funny.
Oh, man.
You guys are going to drop in a guard and we'll give you
Soccer kick to the face. Oh, that's too good. But yeah, I think like we, you know, part of our ethos across the whole brand is that, you know, there's this mismatch between what our bodies evolved and were designed to do and what they do now and the environment we live in. And something that's encompassed in that idea is this lack of challenge, that we used to live in a very harsh, challenging environment. And, you know, more than likely on a daily basis, you were presented with different challenges, sourcing food or escaping predators or, you know, getting out of the rain, whatever. So,
uncomfortable situations.
right? And the discomfort is what drives growth and what drives strength and what drives adaptation. So this, you know, the training, and this is why we don't feel uncomfortable to call people out on things like we're doing now. And we don't feel uncomfortable to teach, you know, to give people harsh truths in class.
Because we love you.
Yeah, we love them. We want them to develop further than where they could get to if we were just being really fucking nice all the time. So it's entirely that. It's like if you want to just train at a gym where everything's nice and easy and you can do it, then you go to Fitness First or Anytime Fitness. And you don't have to be exposed to your weaknesses there. You can do the same fucking routine for 20 years and be really good at the chest press and all that shit and the treadmill. But if you come here, you are going to have to face that reality, and the outcome of that over the medium to the longer term is that you become a better person and a better mover and more confident and happier and all those things.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about that message, you know. So it's like,
It's okay to suck.
yeah, it's really important. I mean, fuck, guys, I'll go to Fight Factory then if that's what it's going to take. I'll fucking go there. Someone pay for my nose job afterwards, Jesus.
How you going to block that forehead, though?
You saying I got a big forehead?
No. You told me you got a big forehead.
You got a fucking big forehead, bro.
I do today.
Paul does today. Tell us about what happened to you today, Paul.
It's off topic.
Yeah,
Let's
he's
not.
lift.
We're not talking about lift.
The guys will appreciate it.
All right. So we were doing snatch reps, and I basically headbutted the bar with the top of my, like in between my eyes.
He would have got away with no one noticing because he was at the back of class, but Yazzie, our specialist lift coach, recognised the sound of metal hitting
skull.
bone. And
It was
she
like clang.
whipped her head around and said, "What was that just hit the bar?" And then everyone turned around and looked at Paul, and
And then she said, "Was that your head?" And I was like, I was there, like winced up like this, rubbing my forehead, like genuinely, I was rocked.
yeah,
I was rocked.
Gotcha.
It was swelling in front of our eyes. He looked like a Klingon
Oh,
out of Star Trek.
oh,
You
don't know Star Trek
you
references,
fucking
bro.
Don't pretend you don't know it.
Don't know. I actually don't.
I thought he was talking about Pharrell.
So yeah, I flew the bar up, you know, trying to drive myself under it, correct my technique, and I was a bit too keen to drive under the bar and pretty much just
Headbutted it.
headbutted it. And, so where were we?
Well, what's the
But I'm sucking
It's
at
okay
that.
to suck.
I'm sucking at
It's
that,
okay
and
to
I'm
suck.
trying to learn how to snatch.
Okay,
yeah,
so-
well, actually, it'd be fair to say that a lot of the cool stuff that Yazzy's doing with our lift program is also pushing people into a little bit of that uncomfortable realm where she's exposing, you know, because she has a very, very technical approach, and that people, if they're not that technical, it's really hard, right? So I think there'd be a lot of people fighting that same kind of thing there where it's like, oh, I just didn't feel like I did that well today. And I think it's great. The people that have been sticking around are starting to see really immense changes as a result of that.
I think at first I felt the same way. I was doing the class and I felt like I wasn't really working that hard because I didn't have a lot of weight on the bar. But when I went home and asked myself why I didn't have much weight on the bar, it was because I'm not very good at the movement. So
It's not
like
the
an
movement's
epiphany.
problem.
Yeah. So no, I've been loving it. It's been great. Same reason, you know, but same kind of egos popping up because it wasn't just me, but there were a couple of other males, and I don't like to kind of gender kind of whatever you call it, but
How dare you?
that like to lift a lot of heavy weight, and they're like, oh yeah, I don't feel like I'm working as hard as I was, and now I understand, you know.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I think they do too. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone's, no one's immune to it, right? This ego thing. I know, like when I teach locomotion work, I often preface the session by saying that, like, I try and set a bit of an expectation, and I say to the guys, "Hey guys, we're going to work on this for the next, 20 minutes or whatever it is. We're just going to get moving. You're probably going to really like it for the first few minutes, and then you're going to hit a point where it gets really hard, and then you're going to notice that you stop paying attention, and then you're going to notice that you start having conversations with people, and then you're not moving as fast and you're not listening to me." And like, I try and point out that this is the natural response that's going to happen as soon as you start to enjoy what you're doing less and you feel shit at it. But that's the point when you really have to dig deeper to focus and just follow what I'm saying and embrace the suck. And I find that when I can say that it really sets an expectation for people, and they really apply themselves a lot more. But if I don't say it, invariably we get to that point 5 or 10 minutes in, and I'm like, fuck, I'm losing them. I can feel, there's always a few people that are just killing it because they love it and they might know it already. But there'll be people that are just like, oh, I'm so bad at this. And they think that they shouldn't be bad, So I totally get it. Like, this idea of sucking, it gets everybody.
It's interesting because you're kind of coaching them not on the movement itself alone, but how to approach the training.
Yeah, how to be a good student.
How to be a good student,
And
that's part of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
sorry. Did I cut you off then?
No, you go ahead.
Just to recognise.
His sentence cut off midway because of that bang to the forehead.
To recognise the fact that not being very good at something is part of the process,
Yeah.
I think it's really important. And you see it a lot in jungle gymnastics, probably more so than any other class, because of the fact that the movement patterns in there are probably the most complex that the most foreign, I would say,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Because most people have had some experience with a barbell somewhere down the track, whether it's just a deadlift or a squat or something like that. The stuff we're doing in movement prep is real basic movement patterns. Most people have exposure to that, but the stuff in jungle gymnastics, a lot of the stuff. I mean, if you haven't done any movement training before, it's really, really foreign.
Totally. What on that? There's a second side to like comparing, say, the movement prep or gymnastics to something like barbell work. What's the other major difference there? Talking of resistance
Between the two?
Yeah, like looking at the difference between using your own body to load a movement.
Oh, with the barbell or with
or
movement prep and gymnastics?
Well, like body weight compared to a barbell.
Well, I guess it's just learning how to move your own weight from one place to another. Whether it's a chin up or a locomotive activity, and then with the barbell, it's about moving a foreign weight from one point to another.
Yeah,
There's definitely a different approach mentally to that. I almost feel like it's more natural for us nowadays to be shifting another object rather than moving ourselves from one place to another uncomfortably,
yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know if that's because of how we live now or if that's just something that we've always done. But yeah, it's a question.
Yeah, I don't know the answer exactly, but it just makes me think about how I have found coaching in the last year. I've found like body weight coaching is more difficult than barbell coaching. And part of that and part of the answer, I think...
we're talking like compound movements or like the more complex stuff on the barbell or?
Anything, external object.
Yeah.
Moving.
Got it. Yeah,
and
like kettlebells and softballs.
So when we got like new people coming into the gym, to teach them body weight training, we're often like isolating parts. In order to isolate a part, they have to have a connection with that part. So you wonder why people are more. It's easier for people to push external weight than move their own. Is I think partly because people don't have a communication lines and control and understanding between their body parts. Because for bodyweight training, you often have to isolate one part and use the other part, or use this part and make sure this other part doesn't move. Whereas with the barbell, it
does it for you.
It does it for you. It's a solid object, and you need to move around that object, and it kind of, you're governed by that object, so you have to organize yourself around it. Does that make sense?
It's true, and I think the big one there is that it's very easy to manipulate the intensity of an external object, but it's very hard to manipulate the intensity of your body.
Because it makes you have to do it.
Well, yeah. So, like, if you're weak at deadlifting, then we can start you on a broomstick or an empty bar, and you can do that for as long as you need to, and you can go up by 1.25 kilogram increments week to week.
Whereas you always weigh like 65 kilos.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine what that would be like. Okay, maybe once in one point in my life I weighed 65 kilos. Maybe it was last year, no big deal. But if your body weight coming in, and let's say, let's go into the perspective of someone who's really new to it and maybe wants to lose a bit of weight and that kind of thing. If you come into the gym and you're carrying 5 to 10 kilos more body weight than you want to be, and you've not been training, and so your strength isn't where it should be, it's like I'm putting you onto a 120 kilo barbell.
Yeah,
and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's fucking brutal. Like it's a smack in the face. It's like, we're doing chin up work today or rope climbing or whatever. And it's like, well, that person's definitely not going to be able to do it. So we have ways of, regressing it, because we can't just pull weight off the barbell because you're living in the barbell in this situation. So we change the movement. We try to keep the same theme and the same emphasis, but we're doing different variations, something a bit simpler. But I think that is a really hard thing for a lot of people to stomach, and I get it.
So what's the pro? So let's say I'm carrying extra weight that I don't want to carry. I'm starting up in Jungle Brothers Strength and Movement for my first week in, and I come to a jungle gymnastics class and cartwheels are on the program. How do you deal with that? What's your regression from that? Because there's a lot of load. I mean, we're talking like full body weight load on one hand at one point in time, dynamically, with a fairly substantial bend in the wrist, so quite a strong angle as well, on a wrist that could potentially have not had much load at all in the past. What's your approach with that?
Yeah,
a scenario like that.
Yeah, so we had that a lot recently, right, in the last cycle, and the main thing that I would do there, and I would just apply this same principle to any of, like, whatever movement it is, but I would look at rather than attaching to the cartwheel, I would look at a more overall view of what that movement is. So you could say that you're transitioning weight from the feet to the hands and then back to the feet. And there's an element of, so you're shifting from the lower body onto the torso, onto the upper body, and then back down. So we could regress it by taking all of the speed and the plyometric elements out of it, and it could just be from a standing position, place one hand, place the other hand, step the legs into a position, and then circle back around to arrive. So you're still doing the same pattern. Your feet and hands are touching the same place, so it's coordinated in the same way, but you're not kicking your leg up in the air, throwing all your weight onto one hand, that kind of thing. And so then, and then there's obviously between that very beginner progression, and that's fucking hard still for some. And then going to look at the cartwheel itself, there's all these little steps in between. So we would slowly then, session by session, or even after a couple of sets if they want to, or a couple of weeks, we would look to increase the speed and the agility and perhaps the force of the leg that kicks, so it starts to look more like a cartwheel. And I would just do it like that, and it has to be done, on an individual basis, right? So it's a little bit of a case of, we have the assistant coach, so we sort of introduce it to the group, and then it's like, okay, let's go around and find the people who we know aren't comfortable with what's going on right now, and let's work with them and find that variation. But I think that's really important, that idea of just taking away, like the explosiveness and the fast nature of it, and simplifying it so that people can get into it. Maybe in the way that you would with, a clean and jerk, you would scale that back to a deadlift and an overhead press. You just simplify it.
So with that same idea, so say you've got the person who's doing the easiest regression of the cartwheel but keeping the coordination and the pattern and the theme going on. From there, backwards further to regress even further, is that where movement prep lies?
No, because that would say that movement prep is like a prerequisite, and I don't think it is. And I don't think that that the movements are, because they're simpler, doesn't mean that the intensity isn't as high, if that makes sense. So, for instance, like that same person that's struggling with the cartwheel is going to benefit greatly from it, but just as much as you would, who can do a cartwheel, could do a one-arm cartwheel, or what's the one where you cartwheel and land on your 2 feet?
Round off.
A round off. Yeah. So your level of experience to that person is very different, but you would still gain the same amount of benefits from a movement prep class as he would as well. But yeah, it's definitely an accessory, but I don't think it's a prerequisite, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Or a step below.
And I think, additional to that,
I should say regression.
That very base variation of the cartwheel that I just described might be, that's what came to mind. Could be something else that we work on, depending on the person, what they need and what they're lacking. But anyone can do that, Even if they do it badly, they're still doing that, Even if we had to put a box and it was like, from your feet, place your hands on the box, step one leg behind. You know what I mean? Like we really scaled it back. Like I could probably, I couldn't imagine a person that we wouldn't be able to replicate that with. And so that's the thing. That's the idea behind being able to find what's needed there. What that person requires. I mean, we had it with a lot of the handstand stuff we're doing in the last cycle, whereby there were, people were facing different problems with the handstand. Some people didn't have the shoulder mobility. Some people didn't have the basic level of strength through the shoulders and the trunk. Quite a few people didn't have the confidence, or mentally they couldn't kick up and get themselves into an inverted position. They had all the physical attributes, but they just couldn't do that. And every time they tried it, it wouldn't work. And so,
like a mental block,
total mental block, And it's like, well,
really common.
You're an adult, you've not gone upside down since you were a kid probably, and you've been walking around as an adult for the last 20 years, so it's naturally that's going to be a big challenge, right? There's safety mechanisms in there that we've got to override and stuff. So for a lot of those people, and I know we've spoken about this before, Paul, but sometimes it's like, if you notice that everything's in place, they have everything they need except for this mental side, oftentimes for those people, I'll just tell them, keep sucking at it. And just suck at it for as long as you have to until you can do it. Because exposure is the lesson here. Like exposure and being in that zone is what you're going to need to just overcome this thing. I can't give you a special technique right now that's going to fix it, because it's not a 5-minute thing, you know? And I think, and for the people that embrace that lesson, it's really cool, because they do it and they suck at it, and you can see them watching everyone else in the class and they're getting down on themselves, but they're doing it again, week in, week out. And then eventually they come to you and they say, I did my first kick up today, or I was able to do a cartwheel for the first time. It was pretty shit, but it was the first one I ever did. And you're like, that's cool, you know? I really like that.
It's actually a huge gain.
Yeah.
You know?
The biggest, perhaps.
It's the biggest. Like more than 1 chin up, 2 chin up, you know? And they can just apply that. Makes them stronger for anything that they approach, eh?
Yeah. 100%, man.
To find comfort in discomfort.
Yes. Yeah, it's big.
Did you say define?
No, to find.
To find...
Did you like that?
Yeah, where'd you rip that from? Oh, Insta meme.
I think
or
it was
whatever.
Buddha.
Oh, that's okay then.
So,
What fitness blog did you end up
well,
from?
if you were to, if someone asked you, what am I going to get if I was doing 3-5 jungle gymnastics a week? What am I going to get in 1 year's time from that?
You'll get stronger. You'll get more mobile. You'll get more coordinated. You'll have you'll have better processing hardware. So, or like, let's say software. So like neurologically, all the stuff that gives you your coordination and agility and motor control and all these finer details that we don't talk about much, that stuff will go through the roof. And essentially you're going to be living in a body that is much more capable of expressing itself in whichever way you'd like to, rather than a body that you're forced to only be able to express it through limited means because you got poor mechanics and poor software. What would you say?
For movement prep?
Yeah.
If someone asked me what they'd get after training 5 days a week movement prep.
Yeah, or even,
For
let's
one
say, like 2 days a week.
2 days a week for a year, I'd say you get big fucking abs and you'd roar like a lion.
Oh, what's that sound like?
Oh, we're Tai Nui, special guest, Tai Nui. That's Tiora's son's name.
Big abs.
Big abs, that's
Big
the one.
fucking abs. Who doesn't want big abs?
Big abs.
I'm
The other
guessing
day-
there's a few people out there like,
Fat
I don't know if I want big abs.
Well, if you don't want big abs, then it would be like small abs, but you'd have abs. You know?
Yeah.
You've been
But big abs.
You've been,
Big abs.
you've been peddling
big,
alongside
big abs
abs.
and mobile.
You've been talking about like 6-pack abs on each
Six-pack on the
side,
side.
lately with the whole flag
Yeah.
program that's going
Yeah,
on.
definitely strong trunk, nice strong tendon and ligament, mobile, strong tendon and ligament, you know, supple tendon and ligament.
Nice.
Yeah, big strong abs.
That little valley just between the abs and the obliques.
That's it.
Damn.
Shit that holds everything together.
Yeah, but seriously though,
That is serious. That is serious.
You know what? You know what? Someone. You know what?
new
I got
lead on the phone.
I got an email from someone,
Big
from a
abs,
member,
big abs.
sometime like last year or earlier this year, and they said, "Hey, it'd be really cool if you could like I love everything we're doing at the gym. It's great, love it. You guys are awesome. So much classes. It would be really cool if we could do a class that was like just focused on the abs."
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it was core.
You know, I fucking headbutted my computer
I need a
and then I
core
threw it
class.
out the window and I did it right back. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me, dude? You come to movement prep?" And I know the guy comes to movement prep.
Well, realistically, every class we do has an emphasis on the trunk. Every single class. Can't
escape
Can't do anything in this gym without a strong trunk. It's impossible. Everyone in here's got a strong trunk.
I'm thinking.
Just fucking walking trunks everywhere.
It's true. I think for a lot of people, there's a correlation behind having a 6-pack that's visible.
And stomach crunches.
Yes. And it's like, what do I, yeah, like, can we just do more ab work so that I can have a six pack at the beach? And it's like, dude, it doesn't work like that. Everyone's got the six pack. It's under there somewhere.
Yeah, the ab roller. Yeah.
Any final points on today's topic? I think we covered a bit there.
We talked about how they relate.
What are the key takeaways for the humans?
Come to movement prep and Jay Nast.
Come back to Jay Nast.
Yeah.
No, I think the biggest takeaway is to embrace the suck.
Yeah.
Just embrace not being good at everything straight away all the time.
Yeah, and take your time. You know, these things aren't going to happen straight away, and you don't want to be in a hurry when it comes to any kind of like changes to the structure. You know, the tendons, ligaments, the stabilizers. These things take time.
Yeah.
You got to give it time.
It's not a 2-week, 3-week process.
No.
We're talking months, years.
You got to take your time. Yeah. But you have to be consistent with it as well. So don't skip cycles if you see something in there that you feel like is not relevant to your personal goals.
Yeah.
'Cause it's all relevant.
Don't be a fucking snowflake.
It's all fucking relevant. All of it. The last bit.
Other part, I think, for the greater community is to embrace bodyweight strength training.
Always, yeah.
It's the even if you just want to do fight work or you just want to do weightlifting, do more bodyweight strength training. That includes the mobility. That includes the
mobilizing.
strength. That's what's going to help you.
Yeah, and go to a trusted source. Don't just search YouTube.
Yeah, don't just go hang out with the Cali guys at the park
No, don't do that.
with the big upper body.
Don't
Shout
do
out.
that. Yeah.
And what about to listeners who haven't been here before? You want to...
Get involved, man. Check us out. Yeah, you know our contact channels. junglebrothers.com. You can contact us through the website.
YouTube. We've got some YouTube demos.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff on YouTube now. Just search Jungle Brothers Strength and Movement. Jump on our Instagram, Jungle Brothers Movement. Yeah, it's a bunch of good stuff out there. Easy to get in touch with us. You can call, email, whatever. But we've got our online program. We've got our consultations that go on. We've got people. We're talking with people from all around the globe. So if you need some help, just reach out and we'll find out a way to get you on track.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool. Let's bring the episode to an end then. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
bye.
everyone, for
Take care.
listening.
Bye.
Arigato.